The commitments, as you may be aware, there is the budget speech this afternoon at 2 p.m., so we should keep our press conference as short as possible, but without denying you relevant information for this meeting. So without any waste of time, Advocate Jele. Sorry, Advocate, we've been requested that you speak from where you are, using the microphone.
Understood. Does everybody hear me clearly? Is that all right? Good morning, Program Director, my fellow Sous Sherpa, DIRCO and Presidency senior officials here present, and ladies and gentlemen of the media. Thank you for honoring our invitation to this media briefing. Let me also welcome you to Nasrec, the venue for the first Foreign Ministers meeting under South Africa's G20 Presidency, to be held here over the next 2 days. As you are all aware, on the 1st of December, South Africa assumed the presidency of the G20 with the theme Solidarity, Equality, Sustainability. We successfully had our first Sherpa meetings on 9 to 11 December of last year, 2024. The G20 working group meetings in both the Sherpa and finance track are well underway. And this week, Minister Lamola will host the first G20 Foreign Ministers meeting and welcome his counterparts to South Africa. The G20 comprises of 2 tracks, a DIRCO-led Sherpa track, which has 15 sectoral working groups led by the relevant line function departments, and a National Treasury-led finance track, which has 8 sectoral working groups. I and my fellow Sous Sherpa, Ambassador Mabhongo, seated next to me, are here today to provide you with an overview of this coming meeting, including the attendees, its objective, and its expected outcomes. Ladies and gentlemen, South Africa's G20 presidency carries tremendous responsibility, given that the decisions taken by the G20 can impact the lives of all members of the global community, notably the most vulnerable and needy. South Africa is the only African country that is a permanent member of the G20, and therefore, this is the first time in the G20's history that an African country will preside over this august bloc of developing and developed countries. The world faces a myriad of global challenges and continued sustainable development reversals. The current global situation suggests that the international community requires a profound paradigm shift characterized by solidarity, harmony, and mutual respect. In this regard, the G20 has a significant role to play in fostering global cooperation, collaboration, and partnership to address these challenges and achieve sustainable development. At the core of South Africa's G20 presidency, we aim to secure urgent progress on shared global goals. The meeting of G20 foreign ministers has grown in importance and become a valuable forum for discussions on a wide range of international issues and matters of shared concern. G20 foreign ministers are uniquely placed to monitor major global risks, convene dialogues on strategic matters, and encourage cooperation to revive multilateralism in addressing global challenges. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I will hand over to my fellow Sous Sherpa, Ambassador Mabhongo. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate. Ladies and gentlemen, I will go through the program and some of the priorities that South Africa seeks to pursue during the time of our G20 presidency in 2025. Firstly, in terms of the program for the Foreign Ministers meeting, there will be an opening session tomorrow afternoon, which will be addressed by President Cyril Ramaphosa. And this will be followed by a second session also tomorrow afternoon, where the foreign ministers will discuss the global geopolitical situation. This is one of the reasons that we have convened the meeting of foreign ministers, so that they can reflect on the geopolitical situation that the world faces today and see how the G20 can position itself to respond and contribute to that. Then on the second day, there will be a third session that will deliberate on South Africa's priorities As Advocate Jele has indicated, in December we had our Sherpa meetings in Sandton, and during that meeting we presented to the Sherpas South Africa's priorities for its G20 presidency. So this is therefore an opportunity for the ministers on the second day of this meeting to deliberate on these priorities. You will recall that the President launched our G20 presidency in Cape Town, and during that launch he announced 4 overarching priorities for our presidency. The first one being strengthening disaster resilience and response. Secondly, ensuring debt sustainability for low-income countries. Thirdly, mobilizing finance for just energy transitions. And the last one was on harnessing critical minerals for inclusive growth and sustainable development. So these are the 4 overarching priorities that the President announced as being the guiding light for our presidency. In addition to this, we have established 3 high-level task forces. The first one is on inclusive economic growth, industrialization, employment, and reduced inequality. The second one is on food security. And the third one is on artificial intelligence for sustainable development. And then, importantly, our presidency is the last in the first cycle of G20 presidencies since it was elevated into the leaders level. Therefore, one of the aims of our presidency is to undertake a review of the G20 at 20. That is to see what has the G20 achieved during the past 20 years. So this is part of the work that will be done during our presidency. Secondly, when we talk about debt and some of the challenges that are facing developing countries, we cannot shy away from the fact that there is a problem with the cost of capital. Therefore, South Africa seeks during its presidency to also undertake a review of the cost of capital. Why is it that developing countries struggle and have to pay higher when they borrow to finance their debt and other challenges than other countries? We also seek to work on a broadened compact with Africa. As you know, the G20 has a compact with Africa, which is co-chaired by South Africa and Germany. So during our presidency, we therefore wish to also see how we can expand and make this compact with Africa more impactful and more effective. And lastly, we are also seeking to focus on a special initiative on critical minerals. This is a global discussion in the United Nations, in the G7, and in many other fora. And therefore, during our presidency, we also seek to have this discussion on critical minerals. In terms of the attendance of the meeting, all G20 members will be represented. We also have a list of guest countries or invited countries. All of them have also confirmed their attendance. So we look forward to a very good and successful meeting of foreign ministers at the beginning of our G20 presidency. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Advocate Jele and Ambassador Mabhongo. At this point, I'd like to invite members of the media who have questions to raise their hands, and please identify yourself and to whom your question is directed. I see a hand on my left, Ms. Mokoena.
Thank you so much. Sophie Mokoena from the SABC. I just want to find out, Advocate and Ambassador, how is South Africa going to ensure that the summit does focus on the task at hand? We've seen the previous meetings were derailed by the political or global tensions. How are you going to ensure that it doesn't happen? And lastly, in relation to invited guests, which countries have been invited even though they are not members of the G20? Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll take 3 questions. Okay, your question has been asked already. Second hand over here.
Good morning, Vizali Mark, Chief Task News Agency. Do you expect to present some document, final document for this meeting, or it will be no documents at all? Thank you.
All right, thank you. The last hand during this round.
My name is Said from Phoenix TV, China. How does the absence of high-level representatives from major global players impact the outcome of the G20 summit this time?
All right, thank you, Advocate Jele and Ambassador Mabhongo.
Thank you very much for the questions. Perhaps I can start with the invited guests. That is the countries that we have invited, but who are not full members of the G20. So it is Singapore, the Netherlands, the United Arab Emirates, Algeria, Spain, Egypt, Nigeria, Ireland, Norway, Ethiopia, and Angola. Most of these countries have been invited to many of the recent G20 presidencies, so they are not new to the work of the G20. Angola comes in as well as the new chair of the African Union for 2025. As you know, that the African Union is now a full member of the G20. In terms of the geopolitical issues, I think we will be taking lessons from the presidencies of Brazil, of India and Indonesia on how we can manage this so that it does not derail the work of the G20. And a part of what we are going to be proposing to G20 members is that the geopolitical issues should be discussed by Sherpas, by the foreign ministers during this meeting and subsequent meetings of foreign ministers and the leaders themselves in November, so that the work of the rest of the G20 in the working groups, as you know, in the Sherpa track alone, there's about 15 working groups, so we don't want those working groups, their work to be derailed by a focus on the geopolitics. So that is the approach that we are taking. There will be no negotiated outcome document. However, there will be a chair's summary as the outcome of the meeting this week. As far as we are concerned, all G20 members are in attendance. So there is no absence of major powers. They are from the 20 countries, 15 are represented by foreign ministers, 4 are represented by deputy ministers, and 1, which is the United States, is represented by their chargé d'affaires, who's based in their embassy in Pretoria. So all G20 members are in attendance. There is no absence of any major powers. Thank you.
Sorry, if I can just add as well, in terms of the international organizations invited as well, the vast majority, save for a few that have other commitments, are all attending at a very high level. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll take the second round of questions, starting from my right. Where's the roving microphone?
Thanks so much. Karine du Plessis from the Africa Report. I have a question on America. Their attendance seems to be at the lowest level, yet they're taking over the presidency next year. How will their lack of high-level attendance impact the handover of the presidency? And the second question, will South Africa be supporting other African countries for G20 membership, and which countries will that be? Thanks.
All right, do we have Turkmen?
Turkmen Terzi representing Turkish Minute. Ambassador, which international developments South Africa will address? We know G20 is more economy, but now his foreign ministers are coming. Assad rule ended in Syria, for instance. Trump is maybe not happy with your case against Israel and your BRICS membership. So what will be your international issues you are going to address? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have a last question during this round? Any more hand? Okay. I will now give over to Ambassador and Advocate Jele.
Thank you very much for the questions. The US, of course, this is the beginning of our presidency. We've got a presidency for the whole year until the end of November. So we are in conversations with the United States. The United States has appointed a Sherpa for the G20. So we hope that in the next few days, we will be having discussions with the Sherpa of the US. The G20 operates on the basis of a troika. So the Troika is South Africa, Brazil, and the United States. So we will be having discussions in the context of the Troika with the United States. And I think part of those discussions will obviously be the roadmap towards their own presidency in 2026. So we do not foresee any problems in that regard. But of course, I mean, this is one of many press conferences that we will have throughout the year. So we will keep updating you on any developments on that front. In terms of African membership, I think we have said that in principle, we would support other African countries who seek to join the G20, but we have not made any determination of which those countries would be. And we have not really been approached directly by any countries that seek to be members of the G20. But we are very proud of the fact that under the Indian presidency, the African Union assumed membership of the G20. So this is very significant for us. On international issues, I mean, for us in this meeting, when the foreign ministers talk about geopolitics, we expect that they will talk about a number of the developments around the world, in the continent of Africa, in the Middle East, in Europe, all the wars and some of the conflicts that are going on. We do expect that there may be expression on those. But overall, for South Africa, the G20 should contribute to the strengthening of multilateralism, building based on international law, based on the UN Charter. As you know, 2025 is also unique in the sense that it is the 80th anniversary of the United Nations and the UN Charter. Therefore, we think an adherence and faithfulness to the purposes and principles of the UN Charter should be the guide when we deal with international problems. Of course, international law and international humanitarian law should always be observed. Thank you.
Would you like to add anything? Okay, do we have any other hands? Last round of questions that I will take. It looks like, Ambassador and Advocate, you've answered all the questions. And, okay, there is a hand over there. Where's the mic?
Yeah, it's almost, my name is Yuko Bayashi from the Japanese Broadcasting Corporation. It's almost the same question with, about the United States absence. This absence is due to the objecting the South African land expropriation law. This kind of the confrontation between the G20 members makes this meeting less significant. Do you think? Are you concerned though that the meeting will be less significant due to the confrontation?
Okay, that is the last question. And okay, there's another hand over there.
Just a quick one, Junior Kumalo from Newsroom Africa. In terms of the logistics around hosting this from tomorrow, any road closures, security-wise, are you comfortable with the amount of security that's going to be here? Yeah, just around that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. The meeting that we are hosting is actually very significant. We will have about 35 foreign ministers in attendance, both from the G20 members and from invited countries. So there is no question about its significance. It is quite significant. It is significant, as Advocate said in her opening remarks, in the sense that it is also the first time that the G20 is hosted on the African continent. So, and the US will be in attendance. They will be represented by their embassy in Pretoria. So we don't see any problem. But what we see is a commitment by G20 members to come to South Africa and excuse me, and deliberate on pressing global issues and seek to find solutions to those. On the road closures, I think our colleagues from the logistics side may be able to answer, but I'm not aware of any of those details. Would you want to say something?
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, the Ambassador Mabhongo and Advocate Jele are dealing only with the substance, so the other colleagues are dealing with logistics. I think we can deal with the issues of logistics outside of this media briefing. So that is what I will ask, that we deflect that question on the logistics. Before we conclude, Advocate, do you want to say anything?
Thank you. Just to thank you again for all being here. We're going to have many more of these throughout the year. We have a full year-long presidency, and the work is going to evolve as we continue, and we will therefore be seeing you again. We have every faith and confidence that the next 2 days are going to be fruitful, useful, and successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador and Advocate, and thank you to all the media representatives here. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for coming today.